it's ironic that we talk about him because just as one career is ending, more are beginning. Go ahead and get started with our offensive line scout. So I know we talked quarterbacks last week. We've got a lot of different position groups that are planned for the weeks ahead. We will announce that as the dates get closer, just because I feel like being secretive and tough on you guys. So whatever. Offensive line scouting. I have a ton of notes. I don't know. Are you guys wanting me to start? Because I probably, let me be honest here. You guys have been watching them longer than I have. It's kind of obvious, but like at the same time, I feel like you guys could probably help me out a little bit if I'm wrong or anything. You know what I mean? But I don't know. If you want me to start, I will. If not, if you guys want to go first, that's cool too.
I can I can jump in and we'll do it kind of the same way that we did last week. For those unfamiliar or those who did not tune in to the podcast last week, we did 10-1. Obviously, boards ranging. My 10 probably isn't going to be the same 10 as Matt and the same 10 as Ryan. So I'll talk about my 10, and these guys will chip in and say where they have this individual ranked, and then they'll do their 10, and then I'll chip in, and you guys will see how it goes. But we'll start with 10. And to just get it quick and out of the way, we are just doing offensive line as a total, just for kind of time saving. So instead of splitting up into tackle and guard, we're just kind of lumping them together. And again, I think that's going to be really exciting, so we can kind of see where everyone has everyone ranked. But in terms of my 10th offensive lineman ranked in this class, this won't come as a surprise to these two guys above me, but it's Aireontae Ersery for me. I went into this process really, really liking him, really thinking a team that could get him in the right system and really develop him could get a steal. And I still do believe that, but he, more so than many of the other guys within this class, desperately needs to go to the right system. He has good lateral quickness for a guy that's his size at 6'5", and like I think it's 35-inch arms, 34.5-inch arms. So he has really, really good lateral quickness, but he's not going to be your lead blocker. He's not going to pull out and be your lead blocker. And I'll kind of start off with the cons in that note. For a guy that as big as he is, he needs to learn how to use his leverage a bit better. I quite often find a lot of times where the smaller edge rushers, or I guess even a normal edge rusher, is kind of able to kind of get underneath his pads and kind of anchor down in the run game specifically. That's because he's just upright so often. And then while he is a larger guy, he's able to cover some good amount of ground on his kick step just because he has long strides. But his kick step is very, very, very slow. And again, that goes to him just being slow in the run game as well in terms of movement. But in terms of kind of the pros and the stuff I really do like about him is he has those really long arms. And we see that there's kind of that threshold. You need to at least be at 33. And a lot of teams want you to at least be at 34, but 33 is kind of that cutoff. He is, very powerful, which should not be, a surprise to anyone that is his size. And with his power and size, he has a very good anchor to kind of drop back and stop against your bull rushes. And then within the run game, he uses his upper body strength very well. Again, that doesn't always correlate to how good he uses his lower body. But again, I think if he goes in the right system where he's asked to pass protect quite often, I think he's going to be good. But again, do not ask him to be a second level blocker for you, because it just will not happen. But Aireontae Ersery, lineman 10.
I'm going to go ahead and go next because I have a feeling that my notes are a lot shorter than either of yours.
Where do you guys have Ersery?
I have him at 9. So not far behind you. I said that he's got good arm length. He's a quick mover to meet edge rushers outside. But what I didn't like is that he can be pretty inconsistent and over aggressive. One of the things that I saw in film was that he kind of lunges out a lot and that can kind of be one of his biggest weaknesses. And by that, I mean, like, he's legitimately missed out on blocks because he lunged out and completely flat out missed them. So, you know, that's why I'm a little bit lower on him. He's not the lowest in my top 10, but, you know, overall, I'm pretty much right there with you.
Yeah, he just missed the cut for me. He's at 11. He's on my honorable mention list. Him, Cam Williams, Emory Jones, all have the size, all have the frame, all have the physical profile to be starting tackles in the NFL. But all of them, for me, you need, like, it's all about landing spot. It's all about being coached up and taking those inconsistencies out of your game. Like the lunging Ryan mentioned. It does pop up, and especially for an older player who's a redshirt senior, I don't love seeing that. So overall, like, Ersery specifically, if I'm in the back end of the second round, I think he is on my board. Maybe, you know, there's going to be tackles and guys on the higher on the list that I'm going to want more. But, like, and then Cam Williams and Emory Jones are both in that. Once we start the third round, I'll consider it, but it's going to take a lot of time with those guys for me. Both true juniors and didn't have a great batch of film for 2024. So, yeah.
Ben, who you got for 9?
Well, who do you guys have at your 10s? Let's do that.
Oh. Well, I figured I would assume that all of us have the same top 10. It's just the order's a little different. So, I mean,
yes, yeah, and that. Yeah, not. I had scouted 15 guys. So I have 5 guys that are honorable mentions that did not make my top 10. One of them Matt had already mentioned as a guy that is not in his top 10. So again, I think it's best for us to just do our 10s and then us to do our 9s, 8s, 7s. Yeah. So someone else want to do their 10.
Yeah, I will go ahead and do mine then. Like I said, just because my notes are a little bit shorter. Cam Williams was my 10. So overall size for me was a massive plus. He is really, really athletic. He has great bend and overall is a dog. However, the big thing for me, and Matt, it's something that you noted when, you know, we were doing a film session together, was that he's a massive, like, penalty machine. This dude just pumps out yellow flags. It's crazy. So to me, I think that he can learn a lot in the backup position. The biggest thing for me is that he just needs to stay disciplined, and it's not necessarily something that you see on a consistent enough basis to where you could put him over the next, you know, 9 guys that I have in my top or my big board. So, you know, right now he just breaks the top 10 for me. But, you know, I had him kind of like a mid to late second round pick grade for me, just to kind of, you know, slot him in somewhere to where if a team needs a guy, like, he can absolutely fit in, but he would really, really benefit, like I said, from like that backup position. Matt?
Yeah, I have a guard out of Arizona, Jonah Savaiinaea at 9. I think the pros, wide and stout frame with a powerful first point of attack move. He has good spatial awareness in gap scheme to get up the field and kind of continue the holes as they're given in between the tackles. And he has good technique when going against outside shoulder and long-armed moves from the tackle position, but I see him kicking inside to guard. I mentioned it at the top. His cons, he's a fine to below average athlete on tape, just overall not an athletic, you know, mover in open space for me. Hand placement and pad level get him into trouble in pass sets. Goes, you know, he is a taller tackle, so kicking inside to guard, like, that is going to be it needs to get better over the course of time, and he'll leave his feet out to dry and start lunging off his frame when he's beat off the ball and he doesn't get the first jump in that point of attack move that I mentioned at the top. So, yeah, I have Jonah Savaiinaea at 10.
Okay.
At 10, yeah. And to both Cam Williams and Jonah there, I have Jonah just missing the cut for me at 12, and just in all caps for Jonah, because we'll start there. He's just a mauler. Like, he will move guys in the run game. And he is a dude who generates a lot of his play style from his power. He has a very good anchor, and he's very, very good at pushing guys to the outside of the rep and pass pro, and really creating this wide angle that these defensive ends have to go around, but that subjects him to a lot of issues if the defensive end does a counter back inside. And like you said, yeah, foot speed's a big issue for him. Hand placement is really something that, again, stood out, especially in this class where there is a lot of offensive linemen that have very good hand placement and are very good strikers. And then just plays with just a high pad level. So, yeah, he's 12 for me. And just like you, I see him better at a guard than he is a tackle. And for Cam is actually 8 for me. I was kind of going back and forth between Cam and Ersery. The main reason I ended up going with Cam in front of Ersery at this point is just because he's the younger and kind of more inexperienced guy. And their tape looked pretty similar to each other in different ways. But the big issue, again, is the lack of playing time. He 1 year starter there. He hasn't had a lot of playing time. And for a guy who is as inexperienced as he was, to be able to look at least fine within the SEC was shocking for me. And he has a lot of good things that he can build off of. He is really good with his hands. He's really good at countering. He's athletic, has good size, has very strong hands. Like I said, small sample size. Has an awful anchor. It is bad. I saw him get pushed back way more often than what I would have liked at a guy at his size. And then he plays with an open chest way too often, which allows guys to kind of strike into his chest and get that bull rush going, which is probably a big reason as to why he does not have a good anchor. And then, yeah, he's just a penalty machine. But I think he's a guy that offers a lot of good traits, but is just inexperienced, so he lacks some of the technique that you'd be looking for. And yes, he'd benefit from kind of sitting out and not really playing much as a first-year rookie. So I will move on to lineman 9 for me. That's Donovan Jackson. He has a very strong grip, very big frame, and he's very hard to move as well. And he's just a mauler. And again, with a dude that has such a big frame and such a good grip, again, it should not come as a surprise to people that he has a very strong punch as well. But he has very heavy feet, quite often has very bad hand placement. He doesn't get them inside the pads as much as you would like. And again, he lunges often. And then the one thing that irked me quite often was he was able to get to his blocks in the run game, but he was not able to sustain them. And it was frustrating because he's getting to the correct spot, getting to the correct player to create that alleyway, but then won't sustain the block. Overall, I think he's a player that plays with good strength in both the passing and running game. But he played out of position this year. Again, he is a guard. He played a lot of tackle this year due to someone that we have much higher in this list that we will get into in just a little bit.
Matt, you want to go next?
Yeah, I have Donovan Jackson at 8. Pros, easy size, strength mixed with real mobility off the ball. Heavy hands with a very built together build. He's a compact guard, man. He just really is. Overall solid anchor with mauling ability in the run game, has that noticeable motor getting up the field for me. And then you mentioned it. He finished the season at left tackle after the Josh Simmons injury, and he flashed the same strengths and weaknesses as I saw at guard. But he proved to NFL teams at the left tackle position he can do it, and he did it en route to winning a national championship. So there is that probably, let's see if we can try this guy out at tackle. He meets the thresholds just enough as a tackle, but again, he's a guard because of the cons. He is very stiff in the lower body with lackluster foot skills and non-fluid hips for me. Just everything in the lower body is not moving the way I want it to move, especially if I'm kicking him out to tackle. He got beat on twists and stunts into his frame because of the timing and the stiffness, majorly, and he doesn't get off the ball on time at times, leading to quick exposing the chest rushes and being driven back. So overall, I do like him at 8. He kind of meets what Savaiinaea does, and I have a guy in between those two that we can mention next. But Ryan,
I also have Donovan Jackson at 8. I did note, I said another guard that switched at left tackle and played well. We'll obviously talk about, another one. So I said good size, good leverage, quick feet and pass protection. He can get a little bit faster in run blocking plays. He tends to disengage a little too early. So, overall kind of quits a little earlier than need be. But I did give him like a mid-second round grade overall, just to kind of place him somewhere. But, I do think that he would succeed, I think, as Ben said, at that guard position a little bit more than left tackle. However, I do have him in my big board, listed as both a tackle and a guard. So, he's a guy, a little bit of a utility guy, where you can, if need be, you can kind of slot him in somewhere, probably short-term at tackle. But, he's my 8.
Nice. Who is your 9?
My 9 was Ersery that we talked about, yeah.
Awesome. Matt?
All right, my 9, Marcus Mbow out of Purdue.
Oh.
I love this guy. Pros, athletic mover with his foot skills and laterally. Excellent puller in the run game. Shows flashes of grip strength and anchor, but still lean. He has a lean build. He's 6'5". He's, sub 310 measured at the Senior Bowl. So still work to do in the power department, but it's not like he showed the flashes to me that if he can get bigger and continue his athletic skills, pop on 15 pounds to him, could he be have a true anchor and true power? He has a high IQ for me. Understands his leverage off the ball and can shut down reps because of it. He started 32 games at Purdue, 18 at right tackle and 14 at right guard. So he's showing, again, like the Donovan Jackson, having the versatility to kick inside, which I'd probably project him to be an inside guy, but he meets the thresholds just enough to be a tackle. The cons are, number one, length and weight may kick him inside, 33-inch arms with a sub 310 weight. So some teams are going to look at that and say, you're a guard. You have to play guard. Some teams are going to say, hey, let's try it at tackle. Rashawn Slater had 33-inch arms, and he's done great at left tackle. So there is a world that I see him playing tackle, maybe not full-time, but like Donovan Jackson being having that inside-outside versatility. Play strength overall is fine to below average. Just mentioned it. That's his biggest weakness to me. Doesn't generate power and pushability in the run game due to lackluster upper body. So that's where I want to put the weight on for him. I want him to put it in the upper body so he can get some the power on push zone run schemes in the NFL. He will second guess in the pass game, leading to him losing reps. He will kind of get in his own head and stop and wait, and some guys can get him on the inside and outside. And then lastly, he had a season-ending broken leg injury in 2023. I think it was October, middle of the season, but he bounced back pretty good in 2024. But it is still something to mention for him.
Yes, Mbow was someone that just missed out on the list for me. I was going back and forth between him and Ersery. I have him, Ersery, Donovan Jackson, and Cam Williams all kind of within that same tier of each other. Again, the stuff that really pops out to him is his ability to kind of pull and get on the move. And again, he's another guy that has a very good understanding of hand placement and techniques. And just as you said, within those cons, he has that lean frame, which causes a little bit of that lack of power, not being able to anchor down. And then within pass pro, he seems a little hesitant to get that first punch off. And then in the run game, he needs better angles. He's able to get away with it at the college level. But if you're going to go to the NFL, you kind of need to get better angles to your block. In total, I view him as a tackle. I think if he can put on that weight, he's really going to be able to do well. But again, he's a quick tackle that has good understanding of hand placement and hand technique, but can be overeager to get to his spots in the run game, and then a little hesitant for hand attacking in the pass game. But yes, he was a lot of fun to watch.
I was not high on him at all. No. Yeah, he didn't crack my top 10.
Didn't want to watch too much Purdue tape this year. That's fair.
God no. Ben, what are we?
Yeah.
We're at
we're at 8.
7.
Do you have an 8?
My 8 was Cam Williams. I already talked about Cam Williams. Okay. Who's your 8, Ryan?
My 8 was Donovan Jackson. Yeah.
And Matt, yours was Donovan Jackson?
Yep.
Awesome. All right, number 7. Here we go. It's this is their next tier cutoff for me. There's another 4 guys within the same tier for me. For me, number 7 is going to be Josh Conerly. Very athletic tackle with good arms, 34-inch arms. He has very good range to both in the run game and as a pass protector. And his blitz pickup was very, very good. And he was patient. He kind of let the play develop, whether that was, again, both in the run game or in the pass game. He wasn't overly eager to make that first strike, which can be both a pro and a con. But he does need better power. And while he's athletic and can kind of get into the spot, for him, it's more so about getting his butt in the hole than it is actually moving someone out of that hole. Again, another guy that, does not have a good anchor because that lack of power. He needs to develop that more. And then he whiffs on blocks, kind of like we had talked about with Ersery. There were more than enough times within his film that it stood out to me that he was getting out there and just wasn't able to connect on the block. And the guy just kind of flew right by him. At the end of the day, I think he's a very athletic tackle that struggles with power, but has the frame to put on more muscle.
I will go ahead and go next because I have him slated right at the same exact spot. Although I disagreed with you slightly because I think that he can sometimes get a little over aggressive. I don't think that he's as consistent as the next, 7 guys, but overall, I like his hand placement, his leverage, and leverage on the run block. To me, he lacks the size and length, but I think that he has a really good first step, and I do like him more than the guys that we've talked about already. So yeah, that's my 7.
Yeah, I have Conerly at 6. Athlete with his agility, speed, and movement skills, has quick feet to get ahead of the rusher in true pass sets. He was good at getting off the ball and beating to the spots, something we see the Eagles do very well, like Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata. His hand technique for me was textbook stuff. I loved his technique, and when he got to the spots and he could swallow up things. If he beat you to the spot and he got his hands on you, reps were dead. Reps were dead with Josh Conerly, and being 21, I'm really, really intrigued by it. He has great length for a lean and shorter build for a tackle. Again, cons, not powerful. Has fine to below average play strength, not a powerful edge setter. Anchor is still a major work in progress, so yes, growing into your frame is going to be very valuable for him. But again, it's not like we're talking about, a senior or redshirt senior. We're talking about a true junior who is 21 years old, so there's still enough time to really grow into that frame while keeping his athletic abilities at bay. Gives up the inside shoulder in pass sets because he is so eager to get off the ball and get to the spot. So there are times guys will dip inside of him, and he'll lose that way. And, he's standing next to a non-NFL guard at left guard, so they kind of swim inside and can make a play on the quarterback. And then lastly, balance and pad level can get out of control in the run game, and I think that can get better. Again, it's all into the growing of the frame. I really, really liked Josh Conerly, and so I'm intrigued by him.
Yes, I think he's going to be a fun late first round guy for a team that wants to take the chance on that athletic tackle. Who was your number 7, Matt?
Kelvin Banks out of Texas. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah. He is powerful in both the pass game and run game, and he has great grip strength combined with an anchor. When gotten a hold of you, he sets a mean edge in the run game. He is a powerful, powerful player at left tackle. He knows what he's doing with his hand technique and timing, but it can get erratic at times for me in those higher leverage moments, higher leverage games this year. And he has the fluidity and overall coordination when moving off the ball in the run game. But my cons, I said it 3 times. He is stiff, and he's more stiff when trying to get to the outside shoulder. Bendy rushers just cause him to lose and just end reps instantly because he cannot get to the outside shoulder in time. Power does not translate when moving off the line of scrimmage. Like his push power was really lackluster comparing to how powerful he was in setting an anchor. That was just interesting to me. It shows that the upper body still needs some translation to, the rest of his lower body. Balance. He was the balance and overly eager in the run game. It gets him in trouble. He missed blocks in the open field. He whiffed on it. Sometimes it's just, he got too far out in front of him. He didn't know what to do. He's like scrambling like a toddler. Like, what am I going to do next? What am I going to do? Which one? Here. So that was something for me. And then this was the thing that is kind of overrated to me. Like, he has fine length and he has fine athletic tools. I don't think he's this high ceiling prospect with, the athletic tools. I think he's a fine athlete and he's not super long like a Cam Williams out of Texas also. So it's just interesting with me with Kelvin Banks because, again, he's a Texas guy. I love my horns. I'm horned up all the time for my horns. But overall, like, just watching him over the course, like, going into it, we all had that expectation with him. He's winning the Tackle of the Year award, and he's done all these great things. He started since a true freshman. And then you put on the tape, and I'm like, I don't see a top 10 pick. I don't see even a top 15 pick. Maybe he sneaks into the top 20 due to, supply and demand. But overall, I was not as enthused on this player as many people were. And it's sad for me.
I'm right there in the same boat with you. He's 6, so it kind of works out perfectly. He's 6 for me. I could not agree more with pretty much all of those cons. Again, like you said, you watch him and he is just, stiffer than a bookshelf. It is awful. And like you said, that balance was awful. And then within the run game, he ducks his head and he leans way more often than what I would like to see. But he has good power. And I think he's functionally athletic. I think he's more athletic than some of the guys that we see in this draft. But yeah, I don't think he's this great athlete. In terms of pass protection, I think he has one of the smoothest kick steps in the entire draft. It was awesome. And again, good polar and has good understanding of how to use his hands. The one thing he has going for him too, I do think he has the guard tackle versatility. Obviously, I think a team is going to look to try him out at tackle just because that's considered the more valuable position. But if that doesn't work out, I could really see a team being fascinated with his ability to kind of get out in the run game and throw him at guard. So I think that is a plus for him in that aspect of talking for Kelvin Banks. But yeah, I of the same ilk with you, I don't quite get people having him go like 10 overall to the Bears. I'm just not like a fan of him going that high at all.
So wait a minute. Are we talking Kelvin Banks or are we still on 7?
I mean, well, we finished. Well, mine and your 7 were the same, and then 7 for Matt was Calvin Banks, and then it flowed perfectly because I was going to mention Calvin Banks, but he's my 6, so it worked out perfectly. So if you want to do your thoughts on Calvin Banks, and then jump to who your 6 is.
I have Kelvin Banks at 3.
Oh,
I really
wow.
like him. I don't want him to go in the top 10. I think that's not. I wouldn't like that pick anymore. I remember we talked about it not too long ago. It's not a pick that I would make now. Kelvin Banks, to me, I liked him as a run blocker. I think he could be better with his first step overall and just getting a little quicker. His smaller arms can land him at guard, and I think that's where primarily that strength comes in for me. And because of that, I think that he lands somewhere in that 15 to 20 range. I think that'd be more of like a fair spot for him. But yeah, he's my 3rd ranked, O-Lineman in this draft. If we're going with 6,
Yep.
So, since Ben already talked about his number 6, I'll go ahead and talk about mine, which is funny because I just made a change literally as you guys were talking about Kelvin Banks. I moved one guy up, which we'll talk about here in a few minutes, but Josh Simmons fell down just a little bit because there's one more guy that I like a little bit more than him. Josh Simmons is my 6. So I think that the injury overall is just scaring me. I think that's probably why. I think that he will benefit greatly from a good test at the combine, but overall I'm projecting late first, early second round range for him. But I mean, he's everything that you could want potentially at that tackle position. It's just that injury and longevity of him that kind of scares me overall. And so because of that, that stock for me is just a little bit lower. So that's why I have him at 6.
Fair enough. Matt, where do you have Josh Simmons?
I have Josh Simmons at 2.
This is the beauty of this. We're allowed to disagree. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm truly in love with this player. I am. Maybe not as much as someone else on the list, but pros: strength, power, athleticism. Just period. Those are the things that produce high ceiling tackles in the NFL. He was a fluid mover with his change of direction skills and his balance. I was just so impressed with his balance. He wins the space between him and the rusher in pass sets and when maintaining the second level in the run game. Ideal length and size to play tackle. He's about 6'5", 310, 315-ish. I don't think he's going to work out at the combine. The injury is a torn patella tendon on a non-contact, so there are rumors that he's going to try and make it out for a late April kind of thing, mid-April, maybe not late April because that's when the draft is happening, but in April, working out privately for some NFL teams who have high stock on him. But I mean, his cons are pretty simple. Like strike timing and placement for me was an issue, I think, but those are the things that can get refined. Those are the technique things that I think can get better. He has the things you can't teach. And then the other con, period, lack of competition and injury history. That's it. And if you're completely out on the player, like an NFL team is out on the injury because you haven't seen him since the injury, I completely get it. It's the Tyler Shuck all over again, like last week. Like, I completely will understand that this guy's draft range is going to be an extreme range for him where we're sitting, going into round 3, and there's Josh Simmons sitting there, just like DeJuan Jones was a few years ago, and he turned out to be a pretty good player for the Browns, and he even kicked inside to guard, and he's much bigger than Simmons. So I am fascinated by this player just because I think he's got all the things you can't teach, and those are the real ceiling tools that I want to take in the top, I'll say top 10. I really, really love this player.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. He was tackle 3 he was O-Lineman 3 for me in this class. I was really debating between him and number 2. And I mean, you had mentioned it, the reason he had fallen down to 3 is because of that injury. It's the same reason that I couldn't bring myself to put Shuck in front of Jackson Dart. And again, pretty much everything that you had said, I absolutely agree with. I think he has very good hands. I think he is a very, very good athlete, shows very good levels of quickness, and has a very good ability to get to the spot when he needs to. He's a very aware player, so good at picking up those stunts, has good flexibility and balance, and has a good anchor against your power rushers. The three things that really concerned me, what was injuries with that surgery he had to get, penalties. He had a little bit more penalties than what I would have liked. And then, yeah, it goes back to that level of competition. For those confused, you're like, oh, but Ohio State, how could that be a level of competition issue? Well, he spent his first 2 years at San Diego State. And then he came to OSU, and had gotten hurt in that Oregon game. So the games he did play was Akron, Western Michigan, Marshall, Michigan State, and Iowa. So he's not going
And
up
Mike
against...
Green lined up on the other side in the Marshall game.
Yeah. So he's not going up against any of like these elite guys that we have seen. But those are the three main concerns. But again, as you said, I think he has a very, very high ceiling with all of those, physical traits that he has. And again, he probably would have been 2 if it wasn't for the patella injury.
All right, so that was my 6. Yeah. Matt, well, who's your 6?
Conerly.
Conerly. Perfect. All right, 5. 5 for me was Gray Zabel. A guy that really kind of came onto the scene at the Senior Bowl. That's kind of where people started digging a little bit more into him in his film. I think he's a patient, and I'll get this out of the way right now. He played tackle at North Dakota, but he will not be a tackle in the NFL. I think he very much is going to play in the inside. I think either at guard or at center, and I think he can do both. He really has fun tape and kind of gives you the shades of Graham Barton. I don't think he's as athletic as Graham Barton, but I don't think he's not a good athlete. But anyways, I think he's a very patient blocker, a nasty finisher. He kind of finishes and gets guys on the ground, and he has a good understanding of the pad level and leverage. A guy, we look at Ersery, did not understand that at all. And he had really good ability to not let guys get underneath his chest and push him back in both the run game and in the pass game. Obviously, he went to North Dakota State. Level of competition has to be a question here. I think he also struggles to get to his spot at times within the run game. His footwork was not, I think it was some of the sloppiest footwork, to be frank, of some of these guys, within the top 10. And then he does have the shorter arms, hence one of the reasons that we do have him, or at least I see him as an interior guy. He measured at 32-inch arms. But again, he was a very fun guy to watch and does remind me a lot of Graham Barton from last year.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I have him at 5. I think that he's a good starting level. He was a good starting level tackle that moved to guard and just killed it. One of the main attractions to me is that he's literally played 4 out of the 5 offensive line positions. So, whoever gets him is getting a pure utility player at every position. Arm size, like, Ben had said, it can leave room for mistakes at the tackle position. He's got really quick feet. To me, I think he can benefit from more help in the run game. But that Senior Bowl was a very impressive showing. That was something that really impressed me. So to me, he's another one of those guys that can benefit from that good combine. I think that he could potentially throw himself in that first round. But, this is my guy, man. This is who I moved over Josh Simmons. He was a lot of fun. And I would say when it comes to like how much fun I've had watching O-line film, he was probably like top 3. So, right next to the guy that I'm about to talk about next, and then my number 2. So
before Matt gets into it, Matt, I think this is what I was insinuating, and I think you picked up on it. Was this a guy that you bumped up?
Yes.
All right, awesome. You can dig into it.
Yeah, me and Ryan may disagree on Josh Simmons, but we do not disagree on Gray Zabel.
Yes.
There are people every draft that you will go to war for, and Gray Zabel is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
He is an athletic mover with a combo of light feet in the run game and both the pass game. Heavy-handed in pass sets with strike timing that will make your father excited. Redirects in the pass game against stunts and twists and guys coming from all angles into his frame. Pause. But it really shows the IQ for me that any angle outside of his frame, he has control over. And then the thing that you love, he's got a high motor, and he's a mauler in the run game. The cons, number 1, it's arm length. Measured at the Senior Bowl, 32 1/4 arms. If this guy was 33-inch arms, he'd probably be inching towards 2 and 3 for me. Like, truly, that's how much I love this player. Pad level is high in pass sets because he is going to be a taller interior line prospect. He's well over 6'5". I think he's 6'5.5". So kicking him inside, it's going to take time with the pad level and overall technique. And then Ben mentioned it up at the top talking about Zabel. The overall technique can get out of control sometimes with his hands missing wide outside the frame and his footwork getting not really lunging, but split-legged. So you think of a lineman as a box from the hips up, and his legs get split a lot for my liking. So that is stuff that I think can be teached out of him. But overall, his gap, I just want to see him in a gap scheme, run scheme in the NFL, and I want to see him play center, and I just want to see this dude roll because I truly, truly love him. And to mention Ryan's versatility point, you're probably saying, oh, well, he can't, he's played all these positions. It doesn't mean he's not good or he can't find a home. Well, think Cody Mock a few years ago with the Bucs.
Yes.
He struggled his rookie year, but he has really found a home inside at guard, and I think Zabel could do the same thing, and I think he's more athletic than Mock. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And who was your I think I can start piecing it together at this point. Was offensive lineman 5 for you, Tyler Booker?
Yes.
You want to get into him?
Yeah. Tyler Booker, my first note, immediately thought of Osiris Torrance from a few years ago in Florida. The same build, the same kind of strengths, weaknesses. I just see the same player, and I liked him. I liked Osiris Torrance. I think he went a little too late at the back half of the second. Power in the run game with a rocked-up, thick build. Core strength and anchor in the pass game is a plus. Heavy hitter and puncher in the run game. Just overall, everything that just contributes to power, he's a plus at it. Just bar none. The cons, easy. Limited athlete and movement skills overall. I think he gets, stiff in the feet. The feet skills in the pass game are stiff. And laterally, it is a question of mine. But that is Tyler Booker, my 5th offensive lineman.
Yes. Tyler Booker ended up being 4. We had just flipped Tyler Booker and Gray Zabel there. Like you said, the first word that comes to mind when I look at Tyler Booker is just he's just a thick guy. He's just a very big guy. And again, that translates to all of these amazing, wonderful things that you say about his power within both phases as an offensive lineman. And again, I'm going to keep it short because we both agreed on this. It's movement for him. He struggles kind of getting to the correct spot. He struggles against speed guys. And one thing that you did not mention that, again, stood out a little bit to me on tape, and again, it was very jarring going from watching Gray Zabel to Tyler Booker, was he just seemed to get lost in stunts more often than what I would like at a guy at his level. But again, when you're getting Tyler Booker, you know what you're what you're drafting with him. He's one of these high floor guys. He's just an absolute mauler and people mover in every sense of the word. Just a very strong, big guy at this guard position.
Yeah, I have Tyler Booker right where you do, Ben, at 4. This is the other guy I was talking about that I had a lot of fun watching. In my notes, very first thing I put, absolute dog. I said great size, longer arms for a guard. He switched to left tackle and played well. He was good in run block, can get a little better with his feet. He had higher pad level. I said 20 to 25 overall, first round pick grade. I do think that that'll improve, but like right now, this is where I'm slotting these guys. Again, you could benefit from a strong combine, moving that up a little bit, but yeah, that's my guy. It's ironic, because pretty much we were talking about 5. We pretty much talked about 5 and then 4. And then we already talked about my 3 at Kelvin Banks as well. So,
yeah. And we had already talked about my 3 in Josh Simmons. That leaves Matt's 3, who will end up being ranked number 2 for me. But if you want to get into Armand Mbow.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thick, power, and explosive athlete. Those were the first notes you have with him. Ran his own scheme at Mizzou and flashed his lateral quickness a lot for me. Just the change of direction and overall moving side to side for him was very elite. Has length to get a hold of you and close down rushes. I thought he got to his spots and he could shut down reps in the SEC. And he showed improvement in the overall technique department from week 1 into his last game of the season for me. I think if you started from the beginning of the catalog, it slowly gets better and better and better, which I love to see from prospects in their last year. The cons, it exposes the chest in pass sets, leaving him susceptible to speed to power rushes for me. Will get antsy in the run game, getting upfield, leaves opportunities for defenders to split combo teams. I think he's just trying to get to that second level, get to the backers, and sometimes doesn't seal off the line first, and so it leaves him that opportunity to get in the backfield and make a play for the defensive lineman. And then third, left off balance in pass sets after first contact in the counter phase of pass rushes. Yeah, if he wasn't winning off first contact, sometimes the counter was an issue of mine. But overall, like, I think, again, just like Simmons, he has the traits that I'm willing to gamble on, and getting that improvement and better and better and better over the course of the season is something I love to see. So, yeah, get into Membou for me, Ben.
Yes, yeah. Again, Membou's tackle 2 for me, a guy that I had kind of came to pretty late into the process, kind of as in the last 2 to 3 weeks. And again, I'm very well aware that I was late to the process and everyone was already there. But as you said, he just has raw strength within the run game. And again, he is a very good finisher. He gets guys on the ground often, and I absolutely love to see that. He gets to his point, and he has good length at 64.5-inch arms, or 34.5-inch arms, 34.5-inch arms there. That would have been crazy. And then, as you had said, when he gets beat, it's going to be a little bit hard for him to recover, but I liked that he did not wait to make that first move. He was actively seeking out to make that first contact, and I do think some of that has to go into the fact that if he gets beat, he's not always going to make up for that. But he is not a passive pass blocker. He likes to go out and he likes to get the first punch on these edges and kind of get his hands on them before they can get hands on him. He lacks that elite size that you want out of a tackle. He is 6'3", and when you think of offensive tackles, you do not think of 6'3". Again, you look at Zabel, who's going to be playing guard and is going to have at least 2 inches on him. And then, as you said, he exposes his chest, and then he likes to lean a little bit as well. But he's a very imposing player. in the run game and has good movement ability, has a little bit of concerns in pass pro, but all stuff that you can kind of teach him to get there. But as you said, he has all those traits that you'd be looking for in a high end tackle that you're going to be taking within the top 15, maybe even top 10 if you're someone like the Bears.
Yeah, he was my number 2. I said he has a great first step, does a good job mirroring edge rushers. I said is an absolute dog. So you can see a common theme with the guys that I like here. I said lacks size, could do better with his hand placement and footwork and pass protection, but 15 to 20 range player as well. So that was where I had him. But yeah, he's my number 2.
There you go.
Which leaves what was that? Matt, who's your number 2?
Russell.
His number 2 was Simmons, and then Membou was his number 3. To everyone's shock and surprise, I know everyone is very shocked that Will Campbell is everyone's offensive line 1 in this ranking. He is by far the best I don't want to say by far, but he is definitely the best pure offensive lineman in this class. And it was very hard for me. Kind of struggled to watch him because he has some of the best tape I have seen, just like period as an offensive lineman. And it really makes me want to throw him at the tackle position where he performed so well in the SEC. But obviously the number one con that you have to talk about when you mention Will Campbell is the short arms. And that's the reason why people are kind of projecting him to maybe kick into that guard. Again, he doesn't reach that 33-inch cutoff that you at least need to have. I think he came in just barely under that. I think it's 32 and 7/8. But he's a powerful guy in both the run and pass game, has a very good anchor, has very good flexibility and balance, and then just an awesome leader. Everyone at LSU just glows when they are talking about him. And again, really the only 2 cons that I have for him is that arm length. And then at times he struggles more with speed, but I am just getting nitpicky here with that. Again, I think he holds up fine against speed. I was just kind of trying to look for something to throw into this con spot. Because again, he has some very, very good film, very smart player, has the power, flexibility and movement that you would really like to see out of a tackle and a guy that you may be taking even, number 5 overall at this point. I absolutely love him.
I just got to say really quick, let's take a deep breather really quick and stop because there's an MVP in the chat. Coach Harry, everybody saying hello. Hello. Hey,
hello.
Get you. Coach Harry, legend back when we were playing football.
Yes.
Just awesome guy. And huge Bears fan, as you can tell by the profile picture. He's there at a lot of the games. So
here, I'm gonna turn on my camera so I can wave to him. There we go.
Yeah.
But yes,
So,
yeah. As I was saying, he's again the best offensive line in this class. Has everything that you would look for in an elite offensive lineman outside of that arm length. Again, there's a very easy 1-to-1 comparison here. It's Peter Skronsky, but I think he even has better film than what Peter Skronsky had. But as we saw with him, people were having that debate with that arm length. Can he play tackle? Can he play guard? And immediately the Titans kicked him in at guard and didn't even really try to experiment with him at tackle just because he was such a good player. Find him a home. He will play there and he will be very dominant for the next 15 years. Obviously, when you're taking a guy this high, you're going to be confident that he's going to turn out to be well. But I am very, very confident that he's just going to be at least a good starter, if not an elite starter at whatever position he ends up playing.
Yeah, just to sum up probably what you were saying as well, just to kind of keep it simple. Great awareness. Arm length is a weakness, so staying at tackle would be a struggle to me. He's got quick feet, great instincts. He picks up stunts extremely well. Without a doubt will be a great guard if the move is made over there, which many anticipate him to. But, it's kind of hard to slot him in one position because he does both very well, or will do both very well. For sure, top 10 pick. I would go as far as say I would hope my Bears pick him up. However,
Yeah,
I don't even know if he'll be there. I'll be honest.
I would be shocked if he's there.
So overall, I'll just say it just because I'm saying it to all my guys. Absolute dog. So he's a killer, man. He's awesome.
Yeah, Campbell's awesome, man. Balance, leverage, athleticism, all big 3 things for him. Transition to his anchor seamlessly and has a great amount of play strength. Circle back. If you haven't seen it, go watch him versus Texas A&M and the way he bottled up Shamar Stewart, who is 280 pounds. Like, he won that battle aggressively. Yes, Scorton got him on the outside shoulder, and we'll talk about that. But overall, he handled the speed to power stuff from Shamar Stewart. He's a true finisher in the run game, and he gets upfield into the second level. High football character and football IQ. He called out protections as a left tackle. If you haven't seen the interview he's done with Brandon Thorne, who I really respect in the space, he's awesome, man. He is such a smart football player, and I'm going to steal a term from Ryan. He's an absolute dog on the field. So, yeah, man, yeah. It's easy to love Will Campbell. The cons, arm length. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Arm length will be a little below average. If this guy gets 33-inch arms and there's not a team taking him to play tackle, I don't know what's wrong with the league. Because that guy, he's a damn good tackle. I want him to stay out there as long as it's not a wondrous low number at the combine. I want him to play tackle. And, the outside shoulder in the pass game needs refinement. But he's got the kick step and he's got the overall athleticism to get better at it. I think he is just worried about exposing the inside shoulder, so he kind of lets up the outside shoulder a little more often than I would have liked. But yeah, Will Campbell, if he gets to 33, the range starts at 4 with the Patriots, and I wouldn't be shocked if they take him at 4.
Yeah, absolutely. What were you gonna say, Matt or Ryan?
I just wanted to kind of add some things really quick, but Ben, if you're trying to wrap up the segment, go ahead and get your final thoughts in or whatever.
Yeah. So we'll wrap up the segment kind of the same way that you guys had saw last week. We'll kind of run through our 10-1 here. But before I do that, again, I had watched 15 guys, and I kind of just want to tell you guys about my very, very brief synopsis on all of them. At 11, I had Marcus Mbow. I had already talked about him. Just quick tackle, very good understanding of hand placement. I had already talked about Jonah there at 12 as well. Just absolute mauler. At 13, I had Wyatt Millam. I think that's how you pronounce his name. One of those guys that had played tackle at West Virginia. The best move for him is going to be able to go into the inside. A very, very experienced player. I think he had played like 38 games, 36 games. His time there has good power, but kind of lacks that speed and hand placement that you would like to see. But again, plays with a lot of good power within his game. Really good at sustaining those blocks down the field. Number 14 was a guy that Matt has a little bit of experience watching just as a fan. It's Anthony Belton. The best word I could use to describe him is just absolutely aggressive, very powerful guy. He's going to be playing tackle in the run game, has very good size, but just struggled mightily against speed. He's very lumbering, I think is a good way to describe him. Just struggle. Yeah. And on both ends of the spectrum, very powerful, but struggled just heavy against the speed. And then last one was kind of my surprise watch. And that was kind of the reason that I wanted to talk about this, but was Emory Jones. I thought he had a very good Senior Bowl. And he was very good at displacing runners out of their gap. Again, another very good aggressive finisher within the game, knows how to use his strength very, very well, but just lacks technique and refinement. And so hopefully a team that takes him, late 3, early 4 can kind of teach that technique to him a little bit better. And then he just found himself on the ground way too often. Both good and bad, again, aggressive, finish people, but just found himself reaching and leaning, which caused him to be falling on the ground way more often than we would like. But those were kind of my honorable mentions, guys that I'd scouted that weren't able to crack the top 10 there. Did anyone else had any honorable mentions that they wanted to mention before we run through our top 10s again?
No, I mentioned it at the top, my 11, 12, and 13.
Awesome. All right. So my 1 through 10 was Aireontae Ersery at 10, Donovan Jackson at 9, Cam Williams at 8, Josh Conerly at 7, Kelvin Banks at 6, Gray Zabel at 5, Tyler Booker at 4, Josh Simmons at 3, Membou at 2, and Will Campbell at 1.
Mine was Cameron Williams at 10, Aireontae Ersery at 9, Donovan Jackson at 8, Josh Conerly at 7, Josh Simmons at 6, Gray Zabel at 5, Tyler Booker at 4, Kelvin Banks at 3, Armand Membou at 2, and Will Campbell at 1.
10, Jonah Savaiinaea. 9, Marcus Mbow. 8, Donovan Jackson. 7, Kelvin Banks. 6, Josh Conerly. 5, Tyler Booker. 4, Gray Zabel. 3, Armand Membou. 2, Josh Simmons. 1, Will Campbell.
Awesome.
So, really quick, the